So I was stunned when I came across this soundbite this weekend. This happened after I saw it for the first time after we went off air on Friday, but we had to bring this up. Mike Florio is very well known in this industry, and his name carries a certain degree of weight. What he says is not gospel, admittedly.
It's gossip.
But it is gossip. His name carries a certain degree of weight. This is what Mike Florio said on Friday, talking about the Commanders and the NFC Championship game from earlier this year.
The day of the NFC Championship, someone I know who is very well plugged in said the Commanders know they're going to get their asses kicked today, and they're just kind of bracing for it. And it's like, come on, man. I mean, no, I know people in the building, they know what's coming. And it's like, well, maybe they're just preparing for the worst. Like, no, they know that the Eagles are dramatically better than they are.
So Mike Florio having the source saying that Washington knew in the NFC Championship that they were going to get their tail kicked. I believe this to an extent, Max. I believe this from this standpoint. Philadelphia's defense, everybody in the NFL recognized how dominating Philadelphia's defense was. And then on top of that, there were not a lot of holes on their offense.
No.
Outside of, depending who you ask, Jalen Hurts. Because most people don't think Jalen Hurts is all that spectacular. He's won a championship now. I don't think he's all that spectacular. Now, what I do not think is that they walked in there expecting it was going to be 55-22, which I've seen then now people on social media take what Florio says is that, oh, Washington knew they were going to get whooped by 30. I don't agree with that at all. I don't believe that to be the case. What I believe Mike Florio was trying to say, or what his source was trying to say that he was then trying to share with the public, is that Washington knew there were going to be parts of the game, defensive line, offensive line, where it was going to be a battle they were not going to win. I do not believe that they thought they were going to lose by 30 walking into the NFC Championship game. Not with a single fiber of my being do I believe they thought they were going to lose by 30, because they have number 5. And if we had the love for Jane Daniels the way that we did towards the end, I can only imagine how magnified that was amongst the coaching staff, understanding that he is one of the very few Band-Aids that could fix a bullet wound. Most of them cannot. It's a once-in-a-lifetime kind of Band-Aid, but Jane Daniels is the Band-Aid that could fix a bullet wound. The bullet wound is the fact that defensively you can't stop the run. They could not stop the run. In the game against Detroit stopped running the football because Ben Johnson needed to prove that he was an intelligent human being and then started running a bunch of nonsense. Not that that was going to be the deciding factor of the game. Washington was still going to beat Detroit. They were going to beat Detroit no matter what, but they stopped running the football. Philadelphia was never going to stop. So what I believe he was trying to say was that they knew there were going to be elements of the game where it was going to be difficult, which then you can pivot into this offseason and say, how should they and how have they gotten better in those regards? And the answer is kind of alarming because I don't look at the defensive line and say that they are substantially better than what they were in 2024 or in this game where they knew they were going to get their tails kicked by Philadelphia. You have to get another guy on the defensive line to get after the passer. And I am going to yell and complain about not getting a defensive pass rusher until the cows come home, until we start this season and somebody proves to me that they are a pass rusher, or heaven forbid they prove that they are not a pass rusher and we have this conversation all over again. And then how did you waste an entire season of Jane Daniels in this rookie contract and not going and getting a pass rusher? I do think there is a much different kind of pressure on the organization this year based off of the expectations that were now set because of last year. You can't make the NFC Championship game in the rookie season of your quarterback in the first year of this recalibration and then not enter the next season with the expectation that it's possible again. We know it's a lot easier said than done to just say they're going back to the NFC Championship game. There have been so many examples of guys achieving certain heights one year, teams achieving certain heights one year, and then never achieving them again. Aaron Rodgers is a great example. How many times did we think he was going to play in a Super Bowl after they won the first one? Tell you what, a lot more than one. He's only been one time. So the expectation is that you're going to eventually climb that mountaintop, but you never know which does make this offseason a little bit more difficult to stomach in that they did not go out there and get a guy that you feel confident at playing the defensive end spot. You have to be able to hold your own on defense if you want to beat Philadelphia. Everything is about chasing them. They are right now, as much as the Eagles, just personally, as much as the Eagles suck, as much as the fan base sucks, as much as the city sucks. Right now, they are the pinnacle of how to build a roster in the NFL. You have a quarterback that at best is average. Surround him with a lot of dudes, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, the entire offensive line. They lost Jason Kelsey, who's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and they didn't skip a beat. You surround him with all the talent in the world. They're elite at just about every single position outside of maybe tight end. But if you don't think they're elite at tight end, they're really, really good at tight end. They're not bad. They're not average. They're not just good. They're really good at tight end to borderline elite. So you surround an average quarterback with all the talent in the world. Washington has the slight leg up in that conversation long-term because Jayden Daniels is very clearly a lot more than average, and he's a lot better than Jalen Hurts. I do not care what list you want to put in front of me. There have already been several that have had Jalen Hurts above Jayden Daniels. I am not falling for it. There's this trend going around on social media right now. Max, maybe you've seen this. Maybe it's just a TikTok thing. Maybe I'm on a weird side of TikTok. But the trend is propaganda that I am not falling for. And an example of propaganda that I'm not falling for in the year of our Lord 2025 is any conversation of Jalen Hurts being better than Jayden Daniels. It is just not accurate. He just is surrounded with a ton of talent on offense. And then you flip to defense, and they got a Super Bowl championship without blitzing. I cannot stress this enough. When I have conversations with fans of ours about the NFC Championship game last year, because I am in agreement that there are certain plays that would have made that game a lot more easy to stomach for those of us that are fans of the Commanders and a lot easier to point to and say this was closer than the scoreboard actually related it to be, which is why, by the way, I don't believe what Florio is saying here about someone thinking they were going to get their ass kicked. There are plays that you can point to say this should have been closer than it appeared on the scoreboard. That is a fact. What is also a fact is that Washington's defense cannot hang. It could not hang last year. Philadelphia literally won a Super Bowl without blitzing. Do you understand the amount of dominance you have to have on the defensive line to literally not blitz? Because at the end of the season, it felt like constantly we were crying that Washington needed to blitz more to get pressure on quarterbacks. And even when they were blitzing, sending 5, sometimes 6, usually with 6 they got home. But with 5, you weren't getting home still. Philadelphia had the ability with just 4 to get home and to get home against the greatest quarterback of this generation in Patrick Mahomes. That is the difference. And that's why I'm so upset that Washington really has not addressed the defensive line in ways that I thought they would. Right now, I'd looked at something over the weekend on Pro Football Focus, which Max Chadwick of Pro Football Focus is going to join us in 30 minutes time. It was ranking the best interior defensive tackles. You know who is not on that list? Daron Payne. Anyone on the Washington staff or roster, to be fair. John Allen was on that list. Daron Payne was not on that list. Johnny Newton was not on that list. So of the 32 best at the position, Washington, at least according to Pro Football Focus, has none of them. You got to get better at that position. I'm upset that they didn't. I don't believe that what Florio was saying and that they were going to get their ass kicked, and they knew they were going to get their ass kicked, but I do believe that they have a lot longer and a lot more of a distance to cover to be able to say that they're on the same playing field as Philadelphia. You have to be able to get after the passer, and they cannot do that yet.